Okay, what's up, everyone? We are live with Kevin and Owocki. We're super excited actually to have this session. It's kind of like an unsocial session. It's all about AI agent, and I think like it's great to really have you. I think you're always traveling, always around, and kind of like building different things, Kevin. So we're super excited to have you here. And I think like let's start with a quick intro. I think I discovered you back in the days when we were building kind of like this funding mechanism with funding and much more, right? But you kind of like inspiring the community to build better kind of like ecosystems, right? And I think I definitely want to know more about the AI agent stuff that you're doing, Allo Capital, like how you kind of like thinking about pushing like capital and empower the community today. So let's get it started. Quick round of intro from for you, for the people that doesn't know you. Although I think it's quite impossible because you're quite an inspiration in the space.
Thanks. Yeah. So, hey, I'm Kevin Owocki. I'm a computer scientist by training, meme lord by Twitter addiction habit, and I think I'm mostly known for founding Gitcoin. Gitcoin's a crowdfunding platform and protocol that allows people to fund what matters in their ecosystems. We've delivered $66 million worth of funding to open source software and other public goods in the space. And more recently, I've been working on Allo.capital, which is all about capital allocation. I think it's quite obvious that we're going to reinvent how capital is allocated in a blockchain based world. And there's a lot of opportunity to build more democratic, permissionless, credibly neutral capital allocation mechanisms. And we just kind of stumbled upon the first set of them when Gitcoin was built. And so now I'm focused on Allo.capital and sort of cartographying the design space of capital allocation and how do we spend money to achieve impact and profit, and also just building cool frontier stuff that helps DAOs fund what matters to them. So I'd say that like the three brands that I feel most affiliated right now are Gitcoin. I remain a Gitcoin steward. Allo.capital is a new venture in which we're building capital allocation protocols and products. And then Green Pill, which was a community that's built around crypto for positive sum games that I founded back in 2022. So I kind of look at the three of them as like
Nice.
the trifecta of the work that I'm doing. And yeah, we've been pushing the
Nice.
edge of AI recently also. So excited to talk about that in this conversation.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's cool, Kevin. And I mean, I think you're being kind of like inspiring on different visions, right? And I just want to kind of like understand a little bit the I side, as you mentioned. What kind of inspired you to build this kind of like agent? I definitely wanna see a demo if you have it or something. But for the people here, feel free always to comment in the chat, ask questions. But this is mostly like this. We're doing this kind of like agent spotlights, but we kind of like trying to get like really thought leaders in the space, right? And I think you, Kevin, kind of like you encompass literally like the pushing the boundary to the next level, but in the same time being very hands-on, big building actually like cool technology and stack for the community out there. So like excited to see that. But let's start with the question like, what kind of inspire you to build these agents or kind of like this agency? Because obviously I want to get seeing like funding from agents treasury to agent treasury, but I think we're still not there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just think that it's one of the most exciting times ever to be alive. Where our old, there's so much change happening in the world, and it's kind of chaotic and scary. But if you lean into how can we use this technology for good and to create new institutions, it's a really exciting time. And especially, when our old institutions are crumbling and starting to lose legitimacy, how can we invent new primitives for solving
Mhm.
the modern coordination failures? And now we have these two gifts that I think have been given to us. Satoshi Nakamoto gave us decentralized systems and Bitcoin, which, then I think like Ethereum is a continuation of that lineage. And crypto allows us to have censorship resistant network based ledgers where we can share assets with each other. And AI is sort of the commodification of intelligence and the ability to have a supernatural intelligence on your desktop assisting you with whatever you want to do. And so I see the demand for change is quite high. And then I also think that it's a great time to be a builder that's pushing that frontier. So I wake up every day just like really excited to be alive and to be pushing the frontier of what's possible in AI and in crypto and capital allocation. So That energy is just, man, I'm
Oh
just so,
yeah.
I feel so blessed to be working on this.
Oh yeah, especially now with the Denver coming, I'm feeling like we will speak about like agents, starter kits, and kind of like building and kind of like driving the ecosystem further. I think like the agency kind of like model is bringing new, like, I mean, the use case always been there, but I think the fact that Web3 is not just open source, but you can fetch any data that you want, I think is that's why I also like it's so fascinating also for like Web2 kind of like AI developers coming into space. So that's this kind of like smart talent. I'm definitely excited. But let's get back a little bit to your kind of like agent. I think you had some demo that you want to show it. What kind of like agent right now you're building and you want to show us today?
Yeah, sure. So I've been working on a project called Infinite Regen AI,
Nice.
and I'll just share my screen and I'll show it off to you if that's okay.
That's perfect. Love the name, by the way.
Yeah, thanks.
It's like it feels like Infinity
Yeah,
Gardens.
well, it's also a play on infinite backrooms, which I know is a thing that people are excited
Nice.
about in the space. So,
Oh yeah.
this is the Infinite Regen AI landing page. It's just some pixel art that I made, of course, with AI.
Nice.
And basically, what we're building is an AI agent swarm of key opinion leaders and builders that contains the smartest key opinion leaders out there. The sort of mantle that we've been trying to assume is Vitalik level intelligence, and then eventually, hopefully, we can build AIs that are actually building software on the basis of those ideas. And so you can kind of think of what we're doing as building a swarm of mechanism design and software development AIs that can explore the cartography of how do we fund what matters in the 21st century. So this is one of our bots. It's called Green Pill AI. It's part of Infinite Regen, and you can ask it anything about regenerative finance and sustainability. You'll see that it sort of thought leads about different trends in regen crypto, and I think that that's
Nice.
sort of like an interesting thing that it's able to interact with people over here on Twitter. And then it basically, if you respond to it, it responds within 5 minutes and has a conversation with you about that design space. And
Nice.
I've been studying regen crypto ever since I founded Green Pill in 2022, and the agent
Yeah.
tweets stuff that I think is interesting, and it's not like slop, which I think is cool. It's definitely not like a Vitalik level intelligence yet, but it's like coherent and understanding the
Mhm.
core concepts, which I think is pretty cool. And
So what's the model? What's the model kind of like being trained on? Like, is it something like from yours, kind of like data sets, or is kind of like pushing
yeah,
some open source
so
LLMs?
this is greenpill.network. It's a podcast that I run
Mhm.
that is all about the design space of regenerative crypto,
I love it.
and it's trained on all the different books that we've published: the On-Chain Capital Allocation book, the Impact DAO book, Green Pilled: How Crypto Can Regenerate the World. And then I've
Nice.
also done podcasts with a bunch of smart people in the space. Juan Benet, Trake from Eigenlayer has been on there. Vitalik has been on there. So it's just trained on the body of
Mhm.
work that we've created with Green Pill. With ChatGPT, it's using
Nice.
O4 right now, but we can substitute out the models as more models get added to become available.
Nice, nice. Very cool, very cool. And this is like a 5 minutes kind of response time. I like actually the angle because I think like agents, especially on socials, will become more and more kind of verticalized. So I think that's definitely like a good opportunity here. How do you think those agents will kind of differentiate themselves? Because obviously, like I'm always checking. Right now, Kaito with the leaderboard. 30% the XBT. Like how we can actually like appreciate the fact there are like I don't know 200-300 plus right now social agents around X. But what's your opinion on kind of like how we can differentiate ourselves on that based on maybe vertical, or what's your kind of like opinion on this kind of like differentiator factor?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's what domain are they working on and how big is that audience? How big is the distribution?
Yeah,
Obviously AI XPT has a lot of distribution and is trained on crypto, which is what we're all terminally addicted to on crypto Twitter. I also think Truth Terminal
yeah,
is like, what Bitcoin is to crypto, Truth Terminal is to LLMs and is really pushing the frontier. So yeah, probably like innovation, domain, distribution are going to be how these things differentiate. But there's going to be a long tail of agents that no one even knows about because they never get any distribution.
Of
I'm kind of
course.
building agents for my audience, and and so like, I'm not interested in like blowing up anything for like a general audience. It's more about augmenting the work that I'm already
Mhm.
doing around capital allocation and
Specifically.
regen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think actually make total sense. Like, and I mean, also the fact that you're training the agent based on very specific information is allow also people to kind of like trust like the agent itself because it's kind of like pre-trained with a specific kind of vertical. And like my other question I'm always trying to debate is that how we kind of like salvaguard or we create standardization around the agents today could be like around social agents, but could be also about different verticals. Like I'm thinking all about kind of also capital allocation would be an interesting topic. Like when agents would start to actually allocate capital, like how we can ensure there is either a standardization or something around something around like frameworks that we can actually trust. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to have the same agent doing 50 things that are kind of like similar. Uh, I mean, because at the end of the day, we're also building for the end user out there, right? So I don't know, like if you have some kind of like thinking about standards, frameworks, and how we can kind of like deliver a really an end product to user that actually are not afraid to try it out. Because I'm assuming you remember when all the dexes came out, you had all the copycats, right? Same is happening with agents because it's all open source. And I don't know, like how we are. I mean, we will get in this situation where we have like I don't know 500,000 agents doing the same things. But my question kind of like to you is that how we don't allow that, or if we're allowing, how we can build some kind of attestation around all this.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that that's a good question for people who are innovating. Okay, so like I think that like the value add that I have is that I have a body of knowledge around regen crypto and mechanism design. I'm not
Mhm.
pushing the edges of
Yeah.
LLM. In fact, I barely know any linear algebra and neural
Mhm.
networks. Like I kind of understand the data architecture of, but like just enough to hang. I think it's really a question for people who are innovating on AI agents and LLM tech.
Mhm.
Like what are the standards going to be? Right now I feel like the space is moving so fast that I'm just hopscotching from thing to thing, ChatGPT 3.5 to
Mhm.
4 to
Yeah.
O 03 to DeepSeek. And, I'm just trying to
Yes.
keep up. But yeah, I'm curious to see where this all goes. And like our North Star is PhD level
Mhm.
intelligence. Like I have a demo of a couple other bots I could give you if that's interesting to you next.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I would also like to have another part because I think you have an hard stop in 10 minutes. But yeah, I mean, you touch a little bit, right? Like, where do you want, where you think that the space should not evolve to? I think that's also like a question because there is challenges. You probably like see like a very specific vertical, but I'm also like trying to grab like you've been around for quite a long time. You see different trends and kind of like economics of specific like trends or like sub technology. Where do you think that we should not go? Like if there is a specific direction.
Yeah. I think that the market's going to evolve wherever there's capital that
Mhm.
for builders that are building something interesting. And so like I think that I'm sort of mindful that we're in this sort of Cambrian explosion moment where AIs are going to
Mhm.
fill a bunch of different niches that no one could have really predicted. And I think that where I'm trying to route the builders around me into is just how do we fund what matters in the 21st century? How do we fund open source
Mhm.
software? How do we fund public goods? And so, I don't know that it's my place to say where we shouldn't go, but I definitely know where I
Yeah.
feel like we have a vision for where we should go. And that's just, funding the contributors to DAOs, funding the contributors to open source software
Mhm.
is the design space that we're cooking over at Gitcoin and Allo Capital.
Nice, nice. Actually, speaking about Allo a little bit, like what's you want to kind of give a context, how kind of it started, where it's going, and what's the capital allocation mechanism for Arrow Capital.
Yeah, definitely. So Allo.capital is a new project that we just launched out of Gitcoin. And basically, the idea is to systematically explore the design space of on chain capital allocation. So basically, everything
Mhm.
from like
Mhm.
buying a coffee to funding tens of millions of dollars worth of grants. Those are both capital allocation. It's just how do we spend money? How do humans or agents spend money in order to achieve a goal? And that goal can be either for profit, I want to make my number go up, or it can be a more of a nonprofit impact focused goal. And so, we kind of think that similar to how the internet changed how humanity routes information across the world, and that changed everything that relies on information, entertainment, media, politics, social media. We're going to change because of the primitive of computers being able to send value across an internet, a network. We're going to change everything that relies on capital allocation in the 21st century. So that's going to change investments, insurance, the way jobs work is all changing. And so we're kind of leaning into that edge and funding the builders of funding infrastructure in the next internet. And you kind of think of like we're trying to fund the next 10 to 100 Gitcoins, basically. And I view it as this really awesome opportunity. Joe Lubin was the original funder of Gitcoin at Consensus, and he enabled me to go out and fund a bunch of different people in the Ethereum ecosystem. And I kind of view this as another opportunity to pay forward the opportunity that Joe gave me of getting involved in the crypto space by funding the builders who are going to fund the next epoch of builders. So it's kind of like an outward fractal of regenerative capital allocation.
Very cool.
And so, but yeah, AI is just a tool that helps us do that, like basically collapsing context from governance forums and from discords down into a decision tree of who's getting funded what. I think is like a huge opportunity with AI based capital allocation that never existed before. So the past cycle has been about quadratic funding and retro funding, but what if we could do continuous retro funding by just feeding a bunch of LLMs information about who's doing what, and instead of doing it on a quarterly basis, what if we were able to do it every week or every day or every hour? That's the edge that we're sort of pushing now.
Yeah, I remember there was kind of like streaming grants, and but I think like what you're speaking here is also like the how do you say allocation logic, right?
Yeah.
And that's actually quite exciting because it's not like a manual. It could be like an agent specific like funding logic, right? But you think like this will be possible? Like how kind of agent will start allocating specific funding? Because I'm just trying to understand like how this could work in a reality, right? Because those agents would need a track record for actually deploying funds.
Sorry, I'm not sure I completely caught the question. Would you mind repeating that?
No. It's actually quite fascinating. I'm just trying to understand like how agent can start deploying funds evergreenly to companies, right?
Yeah.
With which logic, you know? Because they will need to, like, for example, like sometimes when allocating funds, you have your own kind of like logic as a human, as your kind of like own track record. You see the industry, right? Obviously, I think you can train your agents, but how we can actually like make sure that those agents can evergreenly like fund new company based on your logic. It's kind of like, I would definitely like want to understand how this logic can be built.
Well, have you seen the deep funding experiment that Gitcoin and others are cooking with Vitalik? I could maybe do a little riff on that.
Oh yes. I remember I saw you in I think in Bangkok last year. You showed like some graph on the funding mechanism. I don't know if this is the one that you are mentioning, but I would love that if you want to screen share some infograph, would be awesome.
Yeah, let's do it. So deep funding is a new experiment. Yes. This is a Vitalik brainchild, and I'm just explaining it. But basically, the idea behind deep funding is figuring out in open source software which dependencies of Geth and Reth and Prismatic Labs and Lighthouse and Nimbus, all of the Ethereum clients, do we fund? And so basically, it's a 3-step process that we're working on. In which the first step is that we've gone in and OSO is mapping the dependencies of these projects, and we have a dependency map. And then basically what we're doing is creating a marketplace of different AI agents that are opinionated about which parts of the dependency graph of open source software to award. And in this toy example, I've got this blue agent wants to reward this part of the dependency graph. This orange agent wants to reward the orange part of the dependency graph. And then the yellow agent wants to reward this part of the dependency graph. And so basically what you do is you set up a marketplace of AI agents that look at the dependency graph of open source software and are opinionated about which parts of the graph to fund. And then basically what you have is a human jury that says, okay, we want agents that are doing the best job of assembling a capital allocation structure from looking at the dependency graph. This agent is fucking crazy. I don't even know what they were thinking. This one's done a great job, and this one has also done a great job. And then the jury basically provides a feedback learning mechanism to the AI agents about which dependencies are actually getting funded and what values that that we want to
cool.
that we want to fund. So this is actually an experiment called deep funding. I did a podcast with Vitalik about it, and you can learn more about it at deepfunding.org. But just to land the plane on actually answering your question, this is an example of AI agents doing capital allocation and funding dependencies of open source software. And in a world in which we're successful, you can go out there and just build open source software and receive funding from the people who are building infrastructure on top of it. And I think that that's a beautiful world if we're able to pull it off. Like you won't even have to have a company in the future with like a business model or anything. Just build open source software that provides value for the world. And if enough people are doing dependency funding on top of it, I think that there's a lot of opportunity to make sure that they get paid. And this is Gitcoin's tagline: fund what matters. We're funding what matters in the 21st century using AI.
100%. And I think the fact that you can build this mechanism that is fully kind of evergreen, it could actually give a lot of like value prop to builders continuously building and shipping, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And open source,
that would be cool.
And open source is just the start. Think about the dependency trees in scientific research where papers cite other papers. In that dependency tree, what if you were to trickle funding down in the dependency tree of open source software or scientific research, or like music? You know how musicians are always sampling each other's work. What if you could fund the dependency tree of music? When you start to see the world in terms of dependency trees like this, there's a lot of different cool funding mechanisms that we could be doing.
Nice. And do you feel like this could be working also for like different kind of verticals, like attestation, for example? If you speak about kind of like paper, I'm looking more and more like around attested agents, but also like use case specific, like agent attesting work from other people. Could be anything, like code from other people, kind of starting to attest and kind of retribute people based on attestation service. Because without social graphs, we cannot really like build a track record. So that's actually very interesting. So I think you're excited about this around the funding kind of mechanism, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
what else are you? I know. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, there's a name for networks of attestations that all work together. It's called the Web of Trust. And, the Web of Trust is what's behind PageRank, which basically revolutionized how search. I'm actually old enough to remember 20 years ago when PageRank came out and Google dominated the search market because of it. But Web of Trust is everywhere. I mean, you think about the network of transactions that we're doing on Ethereum, that's a Web of Trust. Ethereum attestation service and attestations, that's a Web of Trust. And I really think the impact, like the Web of Trust type models, and pairing that with AI judgment could really change everything in terms of how we fund companies and networks and social movements. And so I'm really excited to see people explore that design space. And the Allo Capital is meant to be a place that if you're a builder that's building in this space, then we can provide you with a seed check. We can provide you with distribution to Gitcoin's network of partners, and hopefully some intelligence and research and social connections to other builders. So, I think that like Gitcoin was about me building capital allocation tools last cycle, and now Allo Capital is about empowering the next generation of builders, and it's a lot of fun for sure.
Nice. I think also like scalability wise, first it can scale much better, but the fact is evergreen, it can actually allow builders to get kind of like always green support, right? And I think this is super exciting. Yeah. And on the kind of attestation side, I remember Gitcoin Passport, right? I mean, ZK proofs, all this kind of like thinking about like agents. I think that would be a big use case also around the agents attesting and getting track record for your funding. Yeah. That's very cool. No, thank you so much, Kevin. I think you have our stop. We should definitely see part two, or kind of like showing me this demo that you just mentioned. And we would love to actually follow up with some of your links from Allo, kind of like what's happening with Allo, like future. I think we'll see you in
Yep.
Denver. But any kind of like closing word that you want, kind of like people, builders, allocators, like kind of like hearing us right now that they should check out.
It's time to build. So check out allo.capital if you want to get involved in Allo Capital. InfiniteRegen.ai is one of the projects that I'm cooking that we showed off today, and then also deepfunding.org. So those are 3 links that people can go check out. And excited about what Mother is doing also. So excited to work with you all in the future. So keep up the good work.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Peace and love.
Chat in